Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on time today. Inshallah, we'll get started in a bit. Our speaker, our Imam, is leading Asr prayer, but he'll be joining us shortly, inshallah. So please give us a moment, and thank you again for joining us. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Inshallah, we'll be getting started in a bit. We're waiting for Imam Miqdad to return from leading Asr prayer. But inshallah, we'll be getting started soon. Thanks again for joining us, and please be patient. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Sorry for the complete silence. I'm not very good at small talk, but I'll try. Yeah, so I hope everyone had a great Eid last week. Mine was very quiet. I know that COVID has been around for a while, and everyone in Lagos is like back to regular business. But we played it cautious this year, so we didn't travel to our hometown for Eid. We stayed in Lagos, prayed. Well, alhamdulillah, we got to pray together in congregation at our local mosque. But yeah, that was the highlight of my Eid. We hosted, but it was like a little small gathering, wasn't anything major. But yeah, if anyone did anything fun for Eid, like please share in the chat box while we like pass the time waiting for our Imam to join us, inshallah. But yeah, that's the extent of my small talk abilities. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for joining us.
Can I come in now?
Yes, absolutely. Let me just introduce and just give a little spiel. So assalamu alaikum everyone, our Imam's here, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday evening for another Q&A session. Inshallah, our Imam today is going to be Imam Miqdad. If you've been with us for a couple of sessions in the past, you're probably familiar with him. So inshallah, today he's going to be giving us a brief lecture, and then you can follow up with any questions that you have, either pertaining to the lecture or anything that is bothering you, anything that's of concern to you. And we'll be using the Q&A box. So please leave your questions in the Q&A box, and then we'll get to them, inshallah, in the order that we receive them. So I'm going to hand over to Imam Miqdad. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونشكره ونستعينه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبد الله ورسوله اللهم فصل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين سبحانك اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Indeed, all the thanks and all the praises are due to Allah. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His apostle Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam, upon his household and all those who tread the path of righteousness from now and until the last day. I want to start by appreciating Allah for giving us the privilege today of being together once again. And I also appreciate our brothers and sisters in Tahara Collective for finding a student like me worthy of their invite. And actually, I am a learner and I will be willing to learn from you. The chance you see any error in whatever I have said, it is just part of those faults in human nature that you might have been able to identify in me. Please, you might have observed. I thank Allah for the blessings of the deen. And that the beauty of Islam is that Allah has taught us that we should be able to pardon ourselves and tolerate ourselves, no matter the misdemeanor or the moral turpitude that we might have identified. And I want to leverage on this point to set the ball rolling by discussing before the questions keep coming in on the issue of ghiba, that is backbiting, the evil of ghiba, that is backbiting. And why am I bringing this to the fore? I had a session yesterday night in the masjid here in our community, and having given this topic on ghiba, I saw the responses elicited, and I found it very profound to also bring it to the fore here, so that we all can learn from it. And actually, if you look at Allah tells us in the glorious Quran about the fact that we should beware of ghiba. Allah said, "Ijtanibu kathiran min adh-dhann, inna ba'da adh-dhanni ithmun, wa la tajassasu, wa la yaghtab ba'dukum ba'da." In Islam, we don't spy on people. In Islam, we don't want to know what someone does in secret. Allah will base judgment of individuals or the community. Allah had asked us to base our judgment only based on what is apparent. That which we cannot see, we don't see. What we see, we judge. We can decipher. We can understand, right? But what we don't see, we don't make it our business. In other words, everybody has his own his fault areas. So and Allah says, "La tajassasu." Don't bother yourself about it. And Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was explaining this aspect, he said, إِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِعَبْدِهِ خَيْرًا أو بِعَبْدٍ خَيْرًا. When Allah intends good things for a servant of his, it's going to give him some gifts, part of which are يُفَقِّهُهُ فِي الدِّينِ. When Allah intends something good to come the way of a servant, Allah will make that servant to understand the correct meaning of Islam. As in the Aqidah, the understanding of the person will not be faulty. Number two is that yuzahiduhu fi dunya. Allah will make him to understand how vain the earthly life is, the vanity of life. That person will understand that he doesn't have to join the rat race of gathering wealth or competing with people in amazing wealth. A person who wants to live his life is the one that Allah loves. You don't want to live life of other people. You want to live your life. You're not bothered about my friend has built skyscrapers, they bought the latest car. That's not your business. Your business is how you're going to perfect your deen. That's what concerns you. Then if you are in that category, then know that Allah loves you. And number three is that when Allah loves a servant, Allah will make him to see his own faults to the extent that he sees less of other people's faults. Now, this is a sign of the love of Allah. Like, can you see the person whom Allah doesn't love? I'll tell you. The person whom Allah does not love is that person, the person who follows the secret of men, the person who follows all over the places. He tries to expose people. He tries to use some language of giba with a view to exposing other people. I tell you why. You know, I'm a Yoruba by tribe, and I tell you, hey, can't you see your friend? Have you heard the news? Especially in these days of phone. Have you heard? Have you not heard? Okay, come, let me gist you. Or I'm coming to your house, let's gist. You call it gist, but it's actually giver. You are backbiting your brother, and that says, La yaktaba'dukum ba'du. And when Allah gives a graphical description of what giver can be, Allah says, Ayuhibbu ahadukum an ya'kula lahma akhihi maytan fakaraytumuhu. Will any of you like to eat the dead body, the carcass of his brother when he's dead? Will you, for example, one day Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was passing in the city of Medina with some companions, and two of those companions were discussing a form of giba about another companion in a bad way. You know, what is the intention of the person who practices backbiting? The intention of a backbiter is to mudslang, is to denigrate, is to humiliate, is to disgrace, and to reduce. If the person has had some worth in the eyes of other people, the intent of the person who wants to do practice backbite, the person who wants to backbite that person, the intent is that he wants people to understand that this guy is nothing. You just think it's something important. He's nobody, these, I know him, and stuff like this. Because he wants people to now know that this guy is not important, but I am important. You want people to understand that, no, don't give him that post. I deserve it more than him. So because of what he stands to gain, because of the opportunity he wants, he wishes that that opportunity shouldn't come the way of his brother or shouldn't come the way of his sister. He feels that I am more entitled to that opportunity, and he feels that the best way out is to backbite him, reduce him, denigrate him, disgrace him, so that others will see him as nothing, and see him as important. Then he backbite the person. This is not the way of the Muslims. So two companions were going with Rasulullah one day, and they were talking about another companion. Rasulullah did not participate. He didn't tell them anything. In a short while, they got to the place where there was a dead donkey, swollen, and maggots were coming out of the out of the donkey. And Rasulullah called out to the two of them and said, "Hey, you guys discussing? Come and eat your food. This is your food here." He said, "Food? This is no food here." I said, "This is your food. This is what you deserve." Because all the while you have been talking about your brother and you are just laughing and then don't mind him these days and you are smiling. This is the kind of food you deserve. Because that what you were doing was that you were eating the carcass of your brother, and you, although you may hate to do that. This is the evil of backbiting. So now in the hadith, Rasulullah Muhammad, when he said this to the companions and explaining the evil of backbiting, it said, the companions asked him, they said, what about if this our brother or our sister had done what we're talking about? He did it. We know he did it. And it's okay. If he did it, then for the capital, then what you have done is that you have backbited him. But if he never did it, what you have done is that you have slandered him. You have slandered him. These two sins are grievous in the sight of Allah. And Rasulullah Muhammad, he also says that, did you know that if you backbite someone, the person whom you have backbited, until and unless he forgives you, Allah may not forgive you? In other words, if you backbite someone, that person will not mean until the person forgives you, before Allah will forgive you, even until the day of Qiyamah. And that was why on the day of judgment, some people will go to, can't you think about this, my brother? Can't you think about this, my brother, my sister, that you have done Hajj, you have done Umrah, you give charity, you have done so many good things. How would you feel that on the day of Qiyamah, you come on that day and somebody whom you have backbited come and slashes away all your good deeds, and eventually you have to go to hell? That is how serious it's going to be, because Allah will not, no matter the istighfar, until he forgives you. Now he says that on the day of Qiyamah, this man will come with a load of good deeds, a load of salat, a load of zakat, fasting and everything, until the time will come when other people whom he had offended while on earth will come. One of them will be the person that backbited. And because the person can no longer pay with something of dunya, it's not akhirah. So the only way to pay back is to collect his good deeds, and that will become part of his own. And then that other person who had come with lots of good deeds and salat and zakat and all this, eventually will have to go to hellfire, and the other person will make Jannah. So of what benefit it is. And I want to say this because today we're living in the age of manipulation. Technology is good, but what we have in the name of cell phones and others, they seem to have assisted us in committing this crime. And people call it a way of gisting. Let's gist together. Let's chat together. And we might spend 30 minutes. You say, you're burning your credit. You're using your airtime. You're using your data. You're using everything. And yet you're committing sin against Allah in such a manner that is so grievous. In fact, Rasulullah says that, did you know that the sin of backbiting, ashaddu min az-zina, is even more grievous in the sight of Allah than the sin of somebody who commits zina? Because it is possible that a servant who commits zina and he goes back to Allah and says, "Ya Allah, forgive me," and Allah will forgive him. But that the person who commits backbiting may not receive Allah's forgiveness until the person whom he had backbited will forgive him. Now, would you be able to tell people, for example, that your friend you have backbited, your colleagues at work, you didn't want benefit to go his way. You didn't want him to be appointed. You brought disfavor between him and the boss in the office in order that you might be favored. Two friends who love themselves for the sake of Allah, who have been together for quite some time. Because of your backbiting, you went and muslined, you turned the back of themselves against them. You turned the back of each party against themselves because of your tongue, because of your backbiting. Two people who have been together for ages, you use your backbiting to spoil the relationship and destroy the relationship. The father and the child, the husband and the wife and others, you have spoiled and destroyed their relationship on account of what you have done as a sin of backbiting. So I ask you, my brother, I ask you, my sister, what exactly do you have at stake? Would you like to sacrifice your akhirah because of the gains of dunya? Let us assume, for the sake of this argument, that having backbited the person, the appointment you wish that would have been given to him, now it has been given to you. Now he has been removed from office. Now he has been removed and sacked from his job on account of your own backbiting. Now you got the appointment. Now you got the money. Now you got everything. Of what use is all this for you? I ask you the question. Is it more important to you than your akhirah? I want you to think about this. And it's an important thing that we need to think about because of the gravity of backbiting in Islam. And I need to also quickly mention that we need to be, for us to guard against, because now we're talking about solution now. For us to be able to guard against it, I think the best thing is that avoid people of low self-esteem, people of low character. The person who will invite you to come and see the fault of other people, if you check him out or check her out properly, you will discover that that person does not have the the character that is worth emulation. If she calls you, come, let us cause this person's fault. Come and see what this person had done. If anybody invites you to such a thing like that, you should know that that person himself or herself does not worth the salt of human character or human integrity. So importantly, you should avoid company of people of low esteem, people of low character. You don't have to associate with them. If anybody comes to you and says, let's gist, and the only thing, the person does not talk about business with you. The person is not talking about intellectual, challenging topic with you. The person doesn't talk about how to improve your team. The only thing the person engages you on the phone, the 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, is just to discuss ABC on XYZ, what happened and ABL. Then I think the best thing is you avoid the company of such a bad person. Number 2, remember that the sin of backbiting is grievous in the sight of Allah, and that you should not destroy your good deeds. Somebody comes to destroy your good deeds. Somebody comes to you, and the person invites you, I'm going to destroy, with the intent, maybe not directly direct intent, the person inadvertently will end up destroying your good deed. Now the person invites you to have a discourse around someone else's life. What do? Just tell the person point blank, excuse me, I have something more important to do. Can we have some other time to talk about other things? Please, let's talk about other things. And this is the way through which you can avoid someone inviting you to commit the sin of backbiting. Furthermore, think about the grave. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us a lot about what happens to the person in the grave. And the person is a state of barzakh. When he went on Isra wal Mi'raj, it tells us about he saw people whose fingers were made of iron. The fingers were made of iron, and they were using the iron to destroy their faces and their chest. And as they destroy, it comes back and destroy again and blood, and then just in a pool of blood, and they will inhale. They will be in hell forever. Would you want to be like that way? What will that person give to you? That'll be so much more important than you involving yourself in the sin of backbiting. What about the day of Qiyamah? I've told you that there will be no forgiveness until the person whom we have backbited will forgive you. Okay, how easy is it gonna be? Will you go to that your colleague whom you have destroyed his job because you went and destroyed his character before his boss, and the boss who used to love him, the boss who used to like him at the place of work, because of just the cell phone, you discuss everything, you expose the secret and everything. And the next day the boss just turns the other way, and the boy, he keeps asking, what did I do? Yes, what did he do? But you know what you have done, right? You know you are the one that caused that division between him and the boss who used to like him, who used to love him. What about two friends who used to love themselves? You went and used your tongue to destroy the relationship. What about, okay, fine, you said the fault of your brother, and you went from place to place. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "An-namamu la yadkhulul jannah." The person who carries news from place to place, and he finishes from this, he calls this, I finish it with this, he calls this. Have you heard of this? Have you heard what I heard? Have you this? And you kept calling people and exposing your brother or your sister. Rasulullah said, La yadkhulul jannah. That person will not make the paradise. Now, keep in mind, Rasulullah didn't say whether the person is a Muslim or non-Muslim. The person might be a Muslim, might be even a scholar, might be anything, and then that person will go to hellfire. Would you want to go to hellfire? The congregation that has been so nice, the Jama'ah, the Muslim community, the Muslim society, the Muslim group, you went and backbited the leader, and eventually everybody scattered, because once you must-like the leader and you destroy the character, everybody who had confidence in that leader, they now begin to look at him the other way and say, hey, I didn't know this guy is like this. God see you. On the day of judgment, what do you think about it? Don't you think about this? So it's so serious we're talking about here. And I want to encourage you, my brother, I want to encourage you, my sister, that let us try to stay clear of it. If I got someone that comes to me and wants to engage me in a conversation that will be tantamount to destroying my good deeds or my relationship with Allah, I think the best way out is for me to just excuse the person and say, excuse me, I got more important things to do than you discussing a third party with me. I don't want to know what happens. It's not my business what the other person does. My business is, how am I connecting with my Creator? How am I mending my ways? How am I adjusting my life with Allah, so that on the day I meet with Him in a manner that He's going to be pleased with me? That is my business, and I think that should be the serious business of every Muslim listening on this platform. And this, so on this note, we will be, we have been able to set the ball rolling so that we can have questions and other comments from other brothers and sisters on the platform.
Thank you so much for that lecture and that reminder, sir. I think that this is a topic that is constantly harped on, but I feel like it's just so tricky, or maybe it's just become part of our nature in today's world, that gossiping and talking and gisting, like some of us categorize these things as, it's just a part of who we are and what we do these days. So I'll go ahead and ask my question first, because I struggle with the difference between backbiting, gossiping, slander, and just actual, relaying a situation to someone. So recently, I had a situation with someone where I did not like the way, I didn't like the way that I was being treated by somebody. And I was basically reporting the person, not reporting, but like reporting the situation to someone close to me. Does that count as backbiting? Is that a bad thing to do? Because really, I'm not doing it with the intention of hurting the other person. I'm doing it with the intention of, being understood by somebody else. And I mean, this same situation can go into so therapy, for example, if you're going through, different sort of situations with other people and you go to your therapist and you tell your therapist about all these things, it's a one-sided conversation, right? Your therapist isn't hearing the other person's side. So does that count as backbiting? What's the, how do we maneuver this?
Well, thank you. I think I did mention this in the course of the conversation, that the intention of the person who backbites is to reduce the person being backbited. Now, if you have a discussion with a specialist or you want to get an information, that is not backbiting. You might discuss someone else. For example, if a wife goes for counseling and discusses with the counselor about a husband, it's not backbiting. Because the intention here is not to denigrate the person being discussed, but the intention is to get information, right? So that with the right information, we know the right decision or the right kind of therapy to be given. So in that case, if I got your question right, that one is not backbiting. Although we have made a third person a subject of our discussion, but not with the intention of denigrating the person, not with the intention of disgracing the person, but with the intention of getting the right information about that individual. I mean, if I may add, for example, someone commits a crime and you have to report to authority about the crime that person had committed. Can we call that backbiting? And the answer is no. That is not backbiting, because what we intend to achieve is to report a crime to the authority in order that they might take appropriate action or measures to reducing the crime rate in the society.
Thank you so much for that clarification, sir. So just for extra clarity, so if it is not my therapist I'm talking to, if it's a friend that I'm talking to, like, oh, this is the situation I was in, this is what happened, but my intention is not to hurt anybody or to cause any disarray between people. It's just, oh, this is the thing that happened to me recently. What do you think, or how do you think I should handle this? That is okay.
Okay, I need to understand, because you have to analyze and understand what's your intention. What do you have in mind in discussing about that? That's your friend. It's important. We need to analyze the intention here, because, like I did say, the intention of a backbiter, if I may use the word, the person who backbites, the intention is to denigrate, to disgrace, reduce the person behind the personality, and make him feel like unimportant. So that is your intention, that you are backbiting, or just to make fun, just to crack, just to laugh. So at the end of the day, you just crack jokes and just laugh, and because you've messed the person up, and you've just satisfied yourself by laughing at the what you observed as a misdemeanor in in other people.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So I'll go into the Q&A box. Just to remind all our attendees, if you have any questions, it can pertain to the lecture that you've just heard, or it can be anything Islamic, anything bothering you. Please head to our Q&A box and ask your questions. So I'll take the first question here. If you have backbiting a lot, how can you make amends?
If you have done that a lot, then you have to do tawbah a lot. If the person is still alive, you go to the person and apologize that this has been what I have been doing about you. I've said this about you. I've said about you. Maybe the person on account of your backbiting has lost the job or lost the relationship or has been disfavored in one way or the other. You need to inform him, this was what I did, it's my handiwork. If the person forgives you, then Allah has forgiven you. If the person does not forgive you, then you may have to answer before Allah on the judgment day. It's serious. And that was what Rasulullah Muhammad tells us to avoid it as much as it is possible. It is like something that destroys your good deeds unknown to you. You might think you still have some good deeds. Before you knew it, you have nothing in your record of good deeds. May Allah protect us and protect our Iman.
Wow. So in the situation where the person is not alive, then it's just tawbah to Allah. That is the solution.
Hopefully, you will be forgiven and do a lot of good deeds. Because you know why? Because you have to pay back the sin of backbiting to that person in the day of Qiyamah. Perchance, maybe if you do so much good deed, by the time the person cuts off your good deeds from your reward, you might still have something that will take you to Jannah. Because definitely if the person that died, especially if the person died as a result of your backbiting, maybe the person lost the job and you caused it. The person misses a relationship and you caused it. And because of that situation, the person found himself or herself, the person developed a sickness and died as a result. So you discover that you can't go to the dead man in the grave. On the day of Qiyamah, the person will collect from your reward. And it's going to be massive, it's huge. So you have to increase your tawbah. Hopefully, you have enough good deeds such that if the person collects back what the worth of what you had done, then you still have some good deed that will take you to Jannah.
So this is similar to the question I had asked earlier, but I'll still read it out just so we touch all our bases. If the conversation wasn't to cause harm, but a genuine discussion about a problem relating to the person, is that still a sin?
Then it depends on whom you are talking to. If you're talking to someone that can in turn talk to the person, sometimes you may not be able to talk to someone directly on account of what you have observed. Now, if you go to the person whom this person I've gone to him, I've gone to her because I know that this man or this woman can and will in turn talk to the person whom I would have talked to myself directly, then that is okay. Because here you're just making a report. You're going to talk to someone whom will eventually talk to that person on your behalf. That is not backbiting. But if the intention is that at the end of the day, you just discuss and that's end, so that the two of you, the two discussants here, will now begin to look at that person as this is a reduced person, this is an unimportant person, then what the two of you have done is that you have genuinely backbited a brother or a sister. Because no result here. Okay, what's the intent? Because you need to understand the niyyah. What is the intent? What do you want to achieve? Is it that you're discussing that person, you know that the person you discuss with would go to him and say, okay, sorry, ya akhi, or ya ukhti, this is what I observed, this is what I had, can we make an adjustment? And the person will make an adjustment and give you shukr, and will thank you, and inshallah, the person could become a better Muslim. And that is a better way of approach. You know what Rasulullah observed and advised us? He said, for you to be silent is better for you and your deen. He said, Adhambu shu'mun, yeah. Adhambu shu'mun ala ghayri fa'ilihi. When you see a sin, for example, or something that is a misdemeanor, it is a shu'mun. It's kind of some kind of an omen, an evil omen, ala ghayri fa'ilihi, to the person who had not done it. Now it becomes a problem because you've seen it. What would you do with it? If you discuss it, you have done backbiting. If you use that to look down on the person, then you have reduced your brother and you have put yourself in a state of arrogance. So it's better you just remain silent and ask Allah to forgive the person, change the person's life, and ask Allah for yourself too. You know why? Because if you reduce, you call it ta'ayir in Arabic, if you reduce someone in this dunya and you place yourself on a pedestal higher than the person in this dunya, Allah will disgrace you on the day of Qiyamah. Right? So now because you're now putting yourself on a higher level. So who told you are higher at a higher level? Did you see your record of good deeds? Did you see the person whether he has made sincere tawbah to Allah? Did you know whether the person has returned back to Allah? Because shaitan now begins to paint in your gumption an idea that this person is bad, whereas maybe Allah has accepted him or her. You don't know. This is how serious this can be. May Allah protect us.
So the next question reads, from backbiting to hypocrisy, how do you cure these diseases of the heart?
Backbiting to hypocrisy. This one reminds me, before we go to treating the disease of the heart, of what during the lifetime of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see, Rasulullah, in fact, he had a fair share of backbiting. For those of us who are Muslims on the platform who are conversant a little bit with the Sirah, you will discover that on the day of the Battle of Uhud, Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, one we call the leader of the hypocrites, he returned out of the 1,000 men going to defend Medina against the onslaught of Mecca. Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul returned about 300 among the Muslims. Did you know how he did it? I'll tell you. He went to them one by one with himself and his henchmen. He said, did you see Rasul, last Rasul? You know, he's in Mecca. He used tribalism. And he said, did you see Abu Bakr? Abu Bakr is his in-law. Did you see that Umar? Umar is his in-law. Did you see Usman? Usman is the first daughter died. The Prophet gave him another daughter. Those are his in-law. What about Ali? Ali is also his nephew. So all those people following him, they're all Mecca people. So he was going to Medina brothers, the Ansar brothers, one by one. And it was bringing into their minds this indignation and this pride and indignation, this tribal sentiment and ethnic chauvinism and all this. So a lot of them now feel that, oh, these Mecca people, they now no longer saw Rasul as Rasul. They now began to see Rasul like, oh, these Mecca people have come to dominate us in our city of Medina. We are Medinites. They now no longer saw themselves as Muslims. It's how serious it could be. With that, Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul was able to convince about 300 people who returned from the rank of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on that day of expedition. This is how bad, and the kind of the marriage between backbiting and hypocrisy. Like I told you earlier, anybody who backbites has some element of either hypocrisy or low character. He has what we can call character deficiency. So that person shouldn't be your friend. If the person invites you for a discourse, just avoid the person. And this was one of the serious, the case of Aisha radiallahu anha. We know the case of Aisha when they were returning from Khaybar. Aisha came to join the next camp with Safwan bin Mu'tal, this same Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul who claimed to be a Muslim. He was the one that spread the news, the rumor. And he went to Safwan, an innocent brother, just like he came with Aisha in the company of Aisha. He said, Safwan, you, not only you, feed one more. A whole wife of Rasulullah, can you try Safwan? Insinuating evil in Medina. Aisha didn't know, Rasulullah didn't know until the news got to them. For about 3 months, the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were going through this mess because of the evil of backbiting. So I want to appeal to us that there is a relationship between backbiting and hypocrisy. Now, talking about the solution to it, the hadith I quoted earlier is relevant here. Just mind your business. Rasulullah says that anyone whom Allah loves, yubasiruhu or yuba. Allah will make him to see more of his or her own faults and he will see less of other people's faults. Now, if you've seen people focusing on what XYZ did, what ABC did, then you say that those people are not people of high character, and you should avoid them. And then above all is engage your time in the dhikr of Allah. If you got nothing to do, just do your dhikr and sleep. It's better for you than being engaged in phone call. You know, a phone call, you backbite people. And this absolutely is not a good approach. May Allah protect that iman.
I mean, please, if you can you repeat the hadith that you quoted earlier? The one about minding our business.
Yes, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that when Allah intends, إِذَا رَضَ اللَّهُ بِعَبْدِهِ خَيْرًا, when Allah intends good things for his servant, he's going to give him some gifts. Number one is that yufaqihu fi din. It will make him to have correct understanding of the deen. Right? Number two is yuzahiduhu fi dunya. It will make him to understand the vanity of earthly life. So he's not going to carry it on his or her head. And number three is yubasiruhu or yuba. Allah will make him to see more of his fault or her fault than other people's fault. So he's going to pay attention on self-improvement, and he's not going to see other people's deficiency. He or she will see more of him or herself's deficiencies.
Thank you. So the next question, Assalamu alaikum. Please, why do most leaders of Salah not say Bismillah Rahman Rahim while starting Surah Al-Fatiha?
Yes, Surah Al-Fatiha, it starts with Bismillah Rahman Rahim. The scholars of the deen, according to what was gleaned from the practice of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, was that he doesn't say the Bismillah Rahman Rahim out. Right? He says the Bismillah Rahman Rahim silently, then it says Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen out to start the recitation. Although some scholars opine that you could say it out, but the most popular view is that you say Bismillah Rahman Rahim silently, and then you recite Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen outwardly.
So is the rest of the congregation supposed to say the Bismillah Rahman Rahim, or do we just leave it for the Imam who's in prayer?
Okay, fine. If the Imam is reciting aloud, what the congregation would do is to listen to the recitation of the Imam. Allah said when the Quran is being recited, fastami'u lahu, listen to it. Wa ansitu, and be silent. That's the instruction. When you hear the Quran being recited, istamia, you listen to it, wa ansitu, and be silent. So the Imam can't be reciting and you are reciting, that will conflict. So your mind must be focused on the recitation of the Imam. And that's why it's encouraged that, especially with this day that we have amp in the masjid, that the Imam could have a chest mic that whenever he recites, the whole of the congregation might hear him loud and clear.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you so much, sir. Next question. Assalamu alaikum. How far can one go in order to maintain kinship when one believes they are doing everything within their capability to help their sibling because he is the eldest? For example, they go about saying, so they go about talking about how they're spending their money, giving them money. They're going about that generosity is a means of him using that generosity to acquire wealth spiritually. I'm not sure I understand that. In Yoruba, that they're senior. Okay, I can't pronounce this. I'm sorry. So I don't know if you understood the question. So.
I don't understand the question, honestly.
Okay, so let me reread this and try to make sense of it. How far can one go in order to maintain kinship when one believes they are doing everything within their capability to help their siblings? So I guess the sibling is the eldest. And this elder sibling goes about talking about how they're spending their money on their younger siblings, they're giving them money, and talking about their generosity. And I think this might be upsetting to the person who's asking the question. So they're wondering how far should they go in order to maintain kinship with this person.
American.
Well, I think the.
Sorry, sir. I don't know if this exactly. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I don't know if this is what the person is trying to ask, but I'm trying to just picture what the person is trying to say. So I think this is what the person is trying to say. In a situation where maybe the elder sibling is probably not as maybe rich in quotes as the younger one that is doing everything, and then they're believing that Yoruba word is saying Ogba Aisiki one, like their wealth or something. So it's like the younger one is the one spending more money for the elder one. And then that person is going around saying, oh, this person is spending my money, maybe doing that thing that I'm supposed to do. I don't know if this is it, but like that's where I read it.
Well, the first thing is that it is haram for one to think that other people is taking a risk, right? Your risk, your provision comes from Allah and nobody can take it away from you. I know because of the milieu, we have people who believe that some other people are responsible in a way for their, they call it bad luck, right? It is good luck or bad luck thing, that it is because of one thing or the other that they had done that they're using their star. You see husband and wife, the husband saying, my wife is richer than me because she's using my star. It's nonsense here. And it's shirk. It's shirk, right? So we should avoid it that in the family, because the younger one is the one Allah has blessed. So the elder ones are saying that that guy is using our star, is spending our, it's nonsense. So we should avoid it as much as it is possible. As Muslims, we know that whatever is it that belongs to one can never be taken to him. Ma yaftahillahu linnasi min rahmah. In Surah Al-Fatir, chapter 35, verse 2 to 3. Allah tells us that whatever door of blessing that Allah has caused to be opened for one individual or some people, فَلَا مُمْسِكَ لَهَا. Nobody can close that door. And it's a وَمَا يُمْسِكْ. Any door that is closed by Allah, فَلَا مُرْسِلَ لَهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ. Nobody can open that door. And everything is in the hands of Allah. So as Muslims, we should understand that there is nothing that, you know, in Surah Al-An'am, Allah says that even the leaf, the leaf cannot drop from the tree except with the knowledge of Allah and His permission. So what I'm saying is that you maintain your kinship despite what they say. If they're saying some nasty things about you, still maintain the good relationship with them. Say, I mean, a companion met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and tells him something related to this, that I've been doing good to my siblings. I've been kind to them. I've been generous to them. And every good deed I did to them, they do bad thing to me in return. So the companion asked him, what should I do? Rasulullah told him, well, what you should do is if you keep doing what you're doing, it is like you have given them poison to eat. Because so long as you keep doing that, you will always find the nasr of Allah, the help of Allah by your side. But if you just want to feel that, okay, since they're doing this, I'm going to just begin to do this, there's going to be a case of two fighting. Neither you nor them will receive help from Allah again. Shouldn't you go for help where you can receive it? I think it's wiser that way. And Allah knows best.
So the next question, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Why don't we recite prayer against shaitan and Bismillah aloud before Surah Al-Fatiha in non-silent rak'ah? So when we pray by ourselves, not in congregation anymore, why don't we recite A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir rahmanir rahim before Surah Al-Fatiha?
Okay, like I said, you recite it aloud. I mean, you recite it not aloud, silently, because that is a sunnah. That is the way Rasulullah does it. And this majority of scholars agree on this. That if you look at most of the Imam, even in Haram, when they recite Surah Al-Fatiha, they recite A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir rahmanir rahim, silently. Look at Sudais, Shuraim, and others, other Quran. If you listen to their recitation, they recite Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, start first, but they recite Bismillah Rahman Rahim silently. That is a sunnah.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is back to our topic of the day, backbiting. And the question is, if the intention of the conversation is to seek advice and not to denigrate the person, so you speak to your sibling or your parents as you trust them to give you advice. I think you already touched on this earlier, but the person is asking if this is backbiting. If there's anything wrong.
Yes, if the intention is to seek advice and with the view to guiding you on conduct the best manner, the best behavior, it's not backbiting here. Or if the intention is that you have gone to make a report to your parents or whoever, so that they might in turn talk to the person whom you would have talked to yourself, but you felt that if you were to speak with the person directly, the person might get enraged and might not really understand you. You felt the person you're going to discuss with might understand you better and then can do the job for you. So that is not backbiting, as it were.
I think that's clear. So this next question is a follow-up to the earlier question on kinship, which you delved into. I'm going to read it out loud. So the person continues that as a result, the senior sibling has stopped spending money on his junior siblings, but he's still feeling guilty that he's not maintaining kinship anymore because they are no longer talking, which is what you were, basically advising against earlier. So how should they deal with the situation that they're in now, where they're not talking and there's
the person who calls the shot in the family should take steps, practical steps to mend the relationship. And it shouldn't, like the hadith I just quoted, don't mind what they say. Anybody is entitled to whatever they want to say. That's their business. Let them keep saying it. But you will always receive help from Allah, so long as you are on the path that is right. No doubt about this, that Allah will always help you out of their scheme, plots, or what have you, so long as you remain on what is right, trying to maintain the ties of kinship, trying to bring people together. They might say, no, he's using our star. Well, let them go to study that and identify that. That's their business. So I think you shouldn't bother about what people say. Just focus your mind on the fact that what you're doing is right, and you're also doing an act of ibadah, and that is just the best thing for us to do. And Allah knows best.
Assalamu alaikum, Imam. Please, what if someone lies against you and everyone seems to believe the lies, then later the lies are discovered, but the person refused to ask for forgiveness? Will I be called a backstabber if I discuss this issue with others?
If the intention of the person who's refused to seek, of you trying to discuss the issue of the person who lied against other person, but still refuses to seek for pardon and forgiveness of the person, if the intention of discussing that person is with the view to guiding the person right, or talking to the person who will guide him or her right, that is not backbiting. As for the person who lied against someone and who refused to beg for pardon, ask for forgiveness, that is the height of arrogance. Rasulullah Muhammad says that one of the people that is most hateful in the sight of Allah on the day of judgment is the person who is al-faqirul muqtal, the person who is in a state of not poverty per se, in the state of need, and yet is also in the state of arrogance. This is serious. May Allah protect our iman.
Ameen. Next question is, what of in a situation where your intention is to air your grievances to bad treatment from someone, and the person you are talking to has also been on the receiving side of bad treatment from the same person? Okay. And discussing the issue with the person being talked about will only lead to more issues. Would this be backbiting?
We have to go back to the intention now. If at the end of the day, okay, what did you achieve at the end of the day? Now you've discussed that person, you've discovered what the person has been doing. So what going forward, what do you want to get? Is it I just want to laugh over it? If you discuss it, okay, what do we do? If it's of concern to the two of you discussing, now that concern you have will lead you to, okay, what's the way forward? But if at the end of the day, you want to just that is just laugh and they'll say, Naim Sabi, If that's what you conclude on, then that is backbiting. Sometimes you might want to, yes, may Allah forgive us. Sometimes you might want to bring a teaching point here. If the intention is to bring teaching point from what others have done in terms of the evil of backbiting, you want to use it as a reference point for other people, I think to save you, you might not mention the name of the person whom you want to use as a reference point, so that others can learn from whatever the person might have done in the past that landed in something terribly bad for him as a consequence. You don't have to mention the person's name, and that is going to be sufficient for that.
I think that's so interesting because some of these situations are things that we've grown up as like the norm, or we've sort of normalized in society today. So it's so hard to like remove yourself from these situations or from doing these things. Well, may Allah help us and make it easy for us.
Amen.
So what's the way forward and how do you suggest we reform our characters? I think you answered this.
Well, character reformation is a process. It's not a one-off thing. It's something that you have to constantly maintain. And part of the thing, like I did suggest earlier, that you try to change. If someone influences you in a bad way, negative way, the person has a negative influence on you, the first thing is you avoid that person. Avoid association with the person. The best of friends are those friends who reminds you of Allah and your deen. These are your best of friends. And these are the people that will, like they give the example of in the hadith, the person who sits by the perfume seller, that the person who sells perfumes. Even if you don't apply any perfume, by the time you leave the scene, you smell nice because you sat with someone who sells perfume. And unlike you sit with a blacksmith, even if you never touched anything, burning there, you still have the field of that blacksmith stuff in your body. It oozes out of you. So in the same thing, change the kind of friendship you have. Number two, like I said earlier, engage yourself more in the zikr of Allah. Number three is avoid talking too much. I've discovered that those that talk too much, they backbite a lot. I've discovered this, in my interaction with people, that most of the people that backbite, they talk a lot. So minimize what you say. Rasulullah Muhammad said that the best of words are those, al-fadlu min al-aqwal. Excess words, you retain them. The best of words are the ones that are short. You say it and you keep quiet. Excess, keep it to yourself. But excess money, spend it out, don't keep it to yourself. So you can see the opposite now. So if you have excess to say, just keep it to yourself. You don't have to say everything that comes to your mind. And that is why we have one mouth and two ears. So listen more and say less. And of course, do the dhikr of Allah often. May Allah make it easy for us.
Ameen. So just a quick note, I can see someone raise their hands in the audience. If you could please ask your question via the Q&A box, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So the next question, Assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible for a woman to officiate a nikah ceremony?
I don't think so, because it's not our sunnah. We didn't see that amongst the practice of Rasul. We didn't see that among our Salaf Salih. So we don't have that as part of our tradition. What we know is that it is the imams that officiate. I don't think in Islam we have female imams, right? So it is the imams that will officiate nikah ceremony. The female can give lecture, no problem, but it's the imam of the masjid or the Islamic organizations that will officiate the nikah, not the female. But this is not to reduce the female to whatever, no. It is just like specific roles for everybody. Everybody has his own role. And the female could have their own fantastic role in that nikah arrangement, so which the male may not be able to perform. So I think it's just that everybody should have each role of apportioned to each person in line with the gender balance, as it were, in the whole nikah arrangement.
Just to stretch the question a bit, then, is it permissible for women to give khutbah on Fridays?
Khutbah where?
So if we're doing a virtual khutbah, like the one that Tahara organizes every Friday, is it permissible for a woman to
Well,
give
that
that?
is a lecture. That is a lecture, not khutbah in the masjid. Because when we talk about khutbah in the masjid, is the one that we give right in the masjid. A woman can give lecture. We have so many, like Ayman and other prominent female companions, like the Sheikh al-Bukhari, Ismail al-Bukhari. He has about 73 teachers who are females among those who taught him. So females do teach. Aisha was a teacher of the companions. So she teaches other people who are males. But that is not that the person gives khutbah in the masjid and or leads salat under any circumstance, because it is not the sunnah to do it that way.
Thank you for the clarifications there. So next question, in the process of performing qabli or badi after the sujud, do we recite tashahud again before the taslim?
You don't need to recite, when you have done the sujood qabli or badi, you don't need to recite a second tashahud. It is not a requirement. You don't need to recite it.
Can you please expatiate on what these words mean? I personally don't know what they are. I don't know what
Qabli or ba'di are the prostration. If you made a mistake in salat, right, you add a particular part to your salat, or you reduce a particular part of your salat. To amend the mistake, you do two prostration. When you do the two prostration before the taslim, you call it qabli. When you do the two prostration after your taslim, you call it ba'di. But both prostrations are just to amend. They call it sujudu sahwi, the prostration of forgetfulness. So these are to mend your salat, to amend the mistakes you might have made in your salat. That's all. So you could sorry,
Thank you so
someone
much.
distracted me. You could just make the correct the mistakes, but you don't need to do another what do you call it now? Another tashahud. You don't need to do another tashahud.
All right. How long can one keep one's deceased parents' clothing when the siblings have refused to collect them for reasons known to them? Can one donate these clothing to charity?
The best thing is if someone dies, the property should be shared, right? Now, if the siblings live, maybe they felt they don't need those clothing, then you can give them in charity, but let them know that you are giving these clothing in charity. Let it be with your knowledge so that they don't turn out and say, we need the clothing of our fathers and mothers or what have you. So if they agree, then you can give them in charity. It's better that way than allowing those clothing to get bad, keeping them in the house.
So we have a question in the chat box I missed earlier. So Salam, supposing the backbiting is in respect to a man engaged in extramarital affairs with another lady, and the lady is almost at the verge of destroying the man's legal marriage. As a result of the backbiting that was done to you, you intervened in the immoral relationship, saved the man's marriage, but you became an enemy to the man and the lady, although the wife remains extremely grateful to you. There's no question at the end of that sentence.
But the point is that backbiting is still backbiting. The best way to have gone about that process is to have reported that case to people of authority who would have been in a better position to advising the person to stop that which he or she had been engaged in. And through nasiha, I believe through nasiha, that person would stop that which is immoral that they might have been engaged in. You know, Shaitan has tricky way of working on people unknown to them. And Allah willing, the person might be able to be awoken to certain realities through the person that will have counseled him. But if you will go through the process of backbiting and you feel it is the backbiting that has solved the problem, then you have only used a greater wrong to correct a minor wrong. Why? Rasulullah Muhammad says that the sin of backbiting is even greater than the sin of that zina that you have identified.
So back to the Q&A box. So there are quite a lot of cultural factors which are intertwined with Islam. We are advised to imbibe good aspects of culture, but in situations like weddings, where lots of money is spent, or they want to have a huge ceremony, should we be encouraging extravagant practices even though they are not, even though they are culturally acceptable? Oh, I see.
Well, generally, Islam is a simple deen, and simplicity is part of the teachings of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And when he talks about even the issue of nikah, he mentioned that aktharun nikahi baraka aisaruhunna ma'una. That the best nikah, the nikah with the greatest baraka is the one that is cheapest. Now, if you look at society now, culture, tradition, what have you, now you have different levels of marriage. You have the XYZ night, the ABC night, the whatever night, the traditional wedding, the whatever wedding, before you now have the nikah. Is a very, very nasty thing. So the Muslims have derailed from the part of Sunnah, making nikah to be simple. Now nikah is highly expensive. People travel from place to place because they're going for nikah. This is not the way of the Salaf. This is not the way of Rasul. He said the best nikah is the cheapest nikah, the one that gives least burden to the husband. So if you want to do nikah and the money is being spent is so huge, I think you begin to ask yourself the question, am I looking for, remember, societal nikah is not the best nikah, because the societal nikah is to please the parents who are the minister, the president, the parents of the bride, the parents of the groom and others, because they want their fame or their position to be recognized that they are the one organizing the nikah. But what about the barakah of the couple themselves? Many of our parents don't think about this. They think about themselves, they don't think about the couple themselves, right? They don't think about the benefit to the couple. They think about how they can luxuriate and satisfy their own position or what have you. They don't think about, what about these people who are starting life? You want to just spend the money and waste. Sometimes it's rough, it's wasteful. The way they go about organizing this nikah, you rent a hall for 100 million naira, you get decoration for 50 million naira, you get this and get that, all this Owambe stuff. Hey, so at the end of the day, where is the barakah? And even bring some haram. People drink alcohol, people have free mixing of sexes, people dance all these haram songs. And so the question is, where is the barakah? It's important. I think it's very important.
American. So I wanted to ask that, does this mean that the ones that are done extravagantly and without, let's say, I've been to a wedding where it was, I don't want to call it extravagant, but it was big, but there wasn't free mixing. Everything was still in the line of like Islamic line. They got a big hall, they got decorated it to the best of their ability. Are we trying to say like all those extravagant ones that even there's alcohol, there's free mixing, do not have barakah in them?
It depends on the people who are organizing it. Each person will know himself or herself whether they have been lavish in their spending. And each person will know himself or herself the extent to which they had gone in getting whatever they had spent. Look at the society. Just look at our society. Amidst poverty-stricken people, you're organizing big. What about, one of my friends, a brother Allah has blessed, is an older friend. It is something that makes me, even though Allah has placed him in the corridor of power as a den, and he had some money, how he got it, Allah knows. He knows, Allah knows, and he knows. But the point was that he did something that amazed me. When one of the daughters was to do nikah, he didn't organize hall, he didn't rent any tent, he didn't do anything. On Yawmul Juma, on the day of Juma, told the family of whatever, and they said, we're going to meet on the Juma. As soon as the taslim of the Imam he went to the Imam. Of course, he discovered the Imam earlier. The Imam invited the family of the husband and wife. They met together and they did the Arkanun Nikah and everything solved there. There and then they distributed food to everybody. As in every single soul that went for Juma that day ate what you can call nice meal. This is barakah at work. I mean, people are hungry. You're renting hall. You're decorating with millions. I don't understand how to place this anyway. But I said, the people who do it, they know better. I don't want to be here talking about people that, because everybody knows the capacity. But I want us to use the capacity the best way. Allah has blessed you. To what extent have you impacted other people, even to fill a belly? Filled an empty stomach. It's a barakah. Rasulullah said the worst kind of walima is a walima of big men. What is walima of big men? The rich men who don't need the food are invited, and the poor men who need the food are sent out. So that's the worst kind of walima. It's a choice we have to make anyway. It's a choice.
So the next question reads, is working in a conventional bank haram?
Well, scholars have said a lot about this, working at the bank, but the point is that any bank that is based on usury is not encouraged. I wouldn't say more than that. It's not encouraged. And I know due to one necessity or the other, many brothers have found themselves working in this environment. I think we should be thinking of how to get out of this this situation, and how Allah can open better way for us. I think we shouldn't be pleased that we got to our destination and we're going to just live there for the rest of our lives. And because actually any system that is based on usury is something that we should try to find a better way around it. I know scholars have different opinion, like saying that it is not usury that Rasulullah forbidden, but you know, the hadith teaches us that in al halala bayyin wa in al harama bayyin. That which is halal is clear, that which is haram is clear. Bainahuma umurun mushtabiha. There are between the two haram and halal, there are things that are ambiguous. If you avoid ambiguous things, you protect your deen, right? If you fall into ambiguous things, then yaqa fil haram or waqa fil haram. It could be that you might be falling into haram and you won't know this, right? So the best thing is that we should try to avoid things that are ambiguous, and we try to stay clear of them. When you don't know whether this wealth is haram or halal, the best thing is just leave it out altogether. And that's my advice to those of us who at the moment work in the banking industry. The question is, are we going to just have an exodus of brothers and sisters working in the banking industry? No, I didn't say that. But let us have it at the back of our minds that that may not be the right place for us, unless and until we begin to have Islamic banking system in operation, which is not interest-based, it's not usury-based. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden usury and has permitted that which is trade and commerce. And Allah knows best.
So we have a lengthy question on zakah. So assalamu alaikum, sir. Alhamdulillah for the opportunity. Question on zakah. So I'll take the questions one by one, just so it's easier to answer. The first part is, when is the right time to pay zakah?
Your fiscal year, your fiscal calculation. For example, you pay zakat when your maturity, your wealth is at maturity, what you call nisab. Now, everybody has his own fiscal calculation when you start your business, and then when it matures, when it is a year. And then after a year, and you check your account balance, you discover that it has reached what is nisab. I think nisab is about 1.853, 1.53 something. Now, about less than 1.2 million. That's nisab now. With the last one I got, I think brothers or sisters in the house can tell us better. I don't know the detail about this at the moment. Now, when your wealth gets to that nisab, you don't have any debt to pay. You don't have any liability, you know, that you need to settle. You don't have any bill. You've settled everything. That 1 point whatever million is your actual profit after every other expense, right? Now you paid in zakat over that wealth. I know the question may be, because many people pay zakat in Ramadan. The zakat may not necessarily be tied to the month of Ramadan, because that may not be your own fiscal year, when your year of inflow or income will be matured to make a 1 year calculation.
Okay. I think your answer touched on the third question here, which is if it's based on salary. So you are saying that zakat is based on salary. Is that correct?
No, I'm not saying zakat is based on salary, and I don't know of any
okay.
salary. And I'm not saying zakat is based on salary, although I know scholars have been able to discuss this issue of paying your zakat out of salary. I know you don't pay zakat out of salary. You pay zakat out of what you have kept, right? The wealth that you have kept. Maybe you have some wealth you kept over a year, and that wealth is up to like 2 million, what have you, not your salary, because your salary is always being spent. You pay zakat out of your savings, to put it that way. Out of your salary, you have savings, and the savings that have matured to like 5 million naira, and it has stayed in your account. Maybe you fixed it somewhere up to like a year, then you have to pay zakat on it.
Okay.
I know.
I think
Let
that
me quickly
answers that.
add this. Let me quickly add this, that some brothers have opined that for salary earners to pay zakat, that they could calculate what do you call it now? The whole total salary for the year. So if the total salary for the year is up to zakat, then they can pay zakat over it, right? If up to nisab, that the minimum amount of wealth on which you can pay zakat, then if the total salary up to that amount, you can pay zakat. But in this case, it will be a preemptive calculation because you don't pay zakat on the wealth that is not in your domain. Until salary is paid, it becomes yours. It's not yours. It becomes yours when it is paid. So when you calculate, okay, for this year, I expect my salary to be this. No? Just like a businessman saying, I expect my profit to be this. What if the profit doesn't come? What if something happens? So that is the way I kind of understand it, and Allah knows best.
Right. So the next part of the question, what happens if there's doubts about how much you are to pay, the correct amount to be paid? So if you're unsure of how much you're supposed to pay, what happens?
No. If it's 2.5% of the money that you have, 2.5% of the money that you have, that's what you pay.
So I've heard like in some calculations, I've heard people talk about like your gold or like maybe precious metals or other things of value that you own.
Yeah, these are
So,
okay, fine.
yeah.
Yeah, these are other things. We're talking about nisab based on wealth, in terms of monetary wealth now.
Oh,
Now, nisab to be paid on your gold, your silver, your whatever, they have other means of calculation, right? That you have to now look at how to convert them. Because now, before you can decipher how much does the worth of the gold is, you need to convert it to the normal currency. Is it naira or dollar or whatever? You need to convert it as we are in the country. You need to convert it to that money that we spend in that very community or locality, so that we can then measure it that, okay, now it has gotten to the level of zakat, or as it were. It still has to be converted.
Interesting. And then the last part of the question is, do you pay zakat on stock markets? So if you invest in the stock market, do you pay zakat on it if what you invest in is not haram? So if you're not investing in alcohol,
yes, if what you have in the stock market is something that is not speculative, it's not that you are speculating that maybe or maybe not. If it is high, I have this. If it is low, I have this. If you are sure it is the wealth that you have, then at the end of the 1 year of your fiscal calculation, then you have to pay zakat over it. But most of these things are speculative because they say today it is called stock has crashed, tomorrow something has happened. Well, such thing like that, we need to avoid it because it's not really the wealth in your hand. You don't pay zakat over the wealth that you don't possess. It is the wealth that you possess. Out of it, you pay zakat.
And then just to clarify for the question that just came in, must you own the assets for a year before paying zakat on it? So your gold and your non-monetary assets that you're paying zakat on, must you own them for a year? So must I have owned?
Yes, you must have had them for a period of 1 year. I mean, for example, something can happen, you sell your gold. Maybe somebody is sick, you sell your gold, you sell your whatever. You still don't have to convert it to money, maybe to dollar or naira or what have you. Then the value is what you pay zakat on. There's something measurable. So if that thing has stayed with you for a year and nothing has affected it, out of it, you pay the zakat.
All right. So yes, that makes sense. So your monetary and non-monetary assets, you wait for a year. You wait for your own personal financial year.
Yes, exactly. out of it you
Okay.
pay zakat.
Thank you so much, sir. Jazakallah khairan.
Mm.
So back to the Q&A box. If you still have any questions, please put your questions into the Q&A box. The next question is it good to go naked just to pray for your offender?
Wow. It's not allowed in the Sharia for anybody to go naked, because last one, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that Allah is also ashamed of his servant. So you should also be Allah yastahi. Allah is ashamed of you. You should be ashamed of Allah too. And that is why it's not permissible for someone to be in his room. Even if you were alone in the room, you don't put yourself stark naked. The only time you are permitted to be naked is when you are with your couple, your partner. In that case, it's two of you, not you alone. For you to be alone in the room naked is not in line with the Sharia. And of course, I need to quickly add, even as husband and wife in the house, before you strip yourself naked, it's a dua you need to make before you do that. You don't just do that just like that. You need to make dua, because there are shayateen, that is the jinn, that may want to look at your nudity. But if you make the dua, Allah will bring a shield, a shade. A shield between you and them, and they won't be able to see you. Maybe I can quickly mention the dua, Bismillah, or you say Bismillah alladhi la ilaha illa hu. You say Bismillah, or you say Bismillah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa.
Thank you so much for sharing that, sir. So next question, why are women not allowed to go to the mosque to perform 5 daily prayers?
I don't know who is asking this question, but I know the Sunnah allows men and women to go to the mosque to pray 5 times in a day. Rasulullah Muhammad said in no uncertain terms, La tamna'u ima Allahi buyut Allah. Do not prevent the female servant of Allah from the houses of Allah. Now, if I may ask, why is the person asking the question? And he can kind of have a suggestion. I know there are some masajid whereby they build the hall only for the male. And sometimes when they build the female hall, they make it a lock down space whereby the female cannot see their imam leading them in prayer. It's not the sunnah. Because Rasulullah didn't do it that way. Are we saying that Rasulullah partitioned, lock down space when he was in the first masjid in Nabawi that he built? He didn't do that. To the extent that the female companions were seeing Rasulullah as he was talking to them, they were seeing him as he was leading them in prayer, so they could ask questions directly and they could hear him talk to them. Here, the case is different. Here we put our women in a box. And if there's any mistake in the salat, the women are thrown. You know, I got a masjid when I was coming from the office one of these days, and I got the information that the sisters, when there was a mistake in salat, the imam made a mistake, they have to do sujood qabli or ba'di. The sisters they have to leave the female room, which they have locked down. And one of them said, go and peep, let's see what they're doing. So they have to go and peep, and they say, oh, they are in ruku, they are in ruku, they are in ruku. Or the imam is praying. The imam is praying, never takes light. The microphone went off and it goes off and nobody hears anything. The women are thrown into confusion. They didn't know. Or the imam is reciting Quran, has to make sujood tilawa. You know, when you are reciting the Quran, you get a particular portion whereby you have to do sajda, right? When you do sajda, you say Allahu Akbar. The women think the imam went for ruku, whereas the imam went for sujood tilawa. Is in prostration, the women are in ruku. So the women are expecting Sami Allahu liman hamida. The next thing they hear again is Allahu Akbar. So confusion everywhere. So we're doing the wrong thing here. I'm not talking about Islamically, I'm talking about Nigerian wise. You know, what we're doing in the country in the name of culture, what have you, we brought into the masjid space. But the question is, did Rasulullah have a masjid where he locked up the female up down? No, we don't have it that way. And maybe amazingly, some brothers brought into the female, okay, fine, we're going to lock them up and down, we will put TV. And I ask the question, can you look at the TV in Salat? No, you can't. You can't look at TV in Salat because Salat is a concentration. Mm-hmm. And one of the hukm, one of the ruling on congregational prayer is that you must see the imam or you see the person that sees the Imam, or you see the person that sees the person that sees the person that sees the Imam. There should be a physical change. So if anything happens at any point in time, you see the chain, the wave of the sajda, ruku, qiyam, everything is going to be balanced. But in our own setting, we brought something else into our deen and we messed it up. And we messed it up in a big time. That most of our female, and let me quickly add to me, I don't know if any of our scholars on the platform, the point is that many of these masajid, if you enter the female side, the so-called female praying area is loathsome, is scruffy, is dirty, is unkempt, is smelly. Is that how the Sunnah teaches us to take care of a female? Sad.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I know that there's a particular masjid near where I live, and I stopped going there because the access to the women's area is very shaky. It's one of those outdoor metal stairs situations where if you're not looking at where you're going, you can't fall down or hurt yourself. So it was just like, it discouraged me from wanting to go there, especially at night. I remember this was during Ramadan, where we were looking for where to go pray, what's it called, Tarawih prayers. And I had to go somewhere farther instead of the one that is just, walkable distance from my
Closer to
house.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. May Allah make it easy for us and help us find the right knowledge.
I mean.
And just on the question the person asked, so I've always thought it was permissible for women to go to the mosque whenever, but I hear that it is compulsory for men. So I think maybe it's just Juma. I've heard before that Juma prayer is compulsory for men, but it's not compulsory for women. Is that true?
Well, Juma prayer or other prayers, it depends on where the person is or the state of the person. If you're a traveler, for example, Juma prayer is not compulsory for you, whether you are a male or a female. I know many scholars have opined that Juma prayer is compulsory for men, it's not compulsory for women. I think the best thing is, let's go back to the Sunnah. How did Rasulullah practice it? That's just the best way. Did the Prophet make Juma prayer obligatory, or Allah? Let's start with the Quran. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha nudiya lis-salat min yawm al-jum'ah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, is Allah calling the male Muslims alone? It's a question, right? Or Allah is calling believers, oh, you believers. So during the lifetime of Rasulullah, do the female companions go for Juma prayers? As a question as scholars, I'm a student of knowledge, that I said, and I'll be willing to learn from our ulama on the platform, if they can throw in the section, and then we can also learn from this, that Rasulullah's time, women don't go for Juma. Then we take it, and that's the learning point today. I've learned addition to what I know. But I don't know, except from now I can learn that Juma prayer is only for men and not for women. But I know I've been privileged to go to other countries apart from Nigeria and Africa. I've been to Hajj severally, and I've been to other countries in Europe, and I know I've not seen, what do you call it now? Juma prayer meant only for men. But in Nigeria, Juma prayer is only for men.
Is it really for men only? Because I find myself, I'm sorry that I keep interjecting in between. I find my mom especially forcing me. Like there are like maybe times when I want to just maybe say Zur or something, but I find my mom forcing me and saying no. There's nowhere in the Quran, or there's no place, or nobody says it's only for men. It's as important as it is for men, it's also important for women. But now that
That's what I said. But I said in Nigeria, many of the Malams say that Juma prayer is for men. But the Deen, the Rasul, I don't know, maybe our Malams on the platform can tell us better, that when Allah says in Surah Al-Jum'ah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you believer, idha nudiya lis-salat min yawm al-jum'ah, when the call to prayer is made on Jum'ah day, fas'aw ila dhikrillah, go to the remembrance of Allah, and that call is only meant for men. When Allah says Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, there is only referring to the men. We need better enlightenment on that. But I think that both female and male companions of Rasul go for Jum'ah prayer. And other clients, like I said, everybody, male and female, go for Juma prayer, male to their side, female to their side. Allah knows best.
Yeah. We'll try and post this to other imams on our Q&A sessions and see what
Yes,
the
fine. I think it's good. So that
Yeah.
and then if there is any response that you think I can learn from, please let me benefit from the knowledge so that I can also
Inshallah.
learn something.
All right, sir. So the next question, a very relatable question. When you fart frequently and you're finding it hard to keep your ablution for long, how many times can one continue to perform ablution before you can continue the prayer?
Well, as long as you can, you might not find it inconveniencing. Inconveniencing in the sense that you have to make it a prayer, and then in that prayer you farted like 3 times or 4 times. Then you have to just continue with your prayer. Now it has become like istihada. The judgment, the ruling on that is the ruling of istihada according to Hukm Sharia by the scholars. But the point here is that Allah doesn't place any burden on us in the practice of the deen that is beyond what we can bear. So if it's gotten to that point of highly inconveniencing, then what you do is you continue with your prayer.
So the next question, is it okay to delay nikah for career purposes? So there's sort of like a follow-up here. So the person goes on, we know marriage is half of our deen. Can a woman decide she doesn't want to get married? She doesn't want to get married yet in order to get to a certain level in her deen and career. As marriage requires a lot of sacrifice, would that be considered a sin?
Well, Rasulullah was clear on the issue of marriage, and talking about getting married early is a sunnah. But is it obligatory? No, it is not obligatory. So here we're talking about an instance where an individual feels better satisfaction in getting married at a particular point in time in order to fulfill based on the environment, because each person knows the environment he or she operates in. So we may not be able to just sweep it all down and say we get the same ruling applies to everybody. In this case, the person is asking a specific question. I think specifically the person knows her condition, a circumstance that will make her want to fulfill her career, maybe education or deen, to get a certain level before you get married. Now, if you get someone that is willing to get married to you, you can have an arrangement. Like you can have khitbah. Khitbah here means you've already had the what do you call the agreement to get married to XYZ, but you have not moved in to each one, one another's house. You've not fully settled with one another with the intention of either finishing your studies, fulfilling your career, getting yourself to a certain level, or practicing your deen to a certain level. But this time around, like Rasulullah said, if you are able to fulfill this, that you got, this is my husband, inshallah, this is my wife, inshallah, you've done the khitbah. It helps you to lower your gaze and it protects your chastity. Because we're all humans, right? So with this, then you can then say, okay, inshallah, when we finish our studies, when you're done with one of you, then we get this done, then we can fully settle together as husband and wife. So each person will understand the circumstance in which he or she is in. Then we can then answer the question based on those specific areas.
Sorry, my internet is a bit shaky here. Can you hear me clearly, sir?
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
All right, thank you. So the next question, Assalamu alaikum. If I understood you correctly on the farting and wudu, would one continue with salat when the farting goes on and on?
Exactly, that's what I just said. Just like the case of a woman who has problem of menstrual cycle, that who sees her menses all the time. Once you wait for a certain level, like I think it's about is it 15 days? I can't remember now. Certain time, maybe 15 days, or I can't remember now. Like I will remember maybe before we finish this program. Now, when that becomes istihada, that it means the blood keeps flowing. Once it gets a particular point, then you have to just, I think it's 40 days or thereabout. Yeah. You get to that point, then you have to just
Wow.
start praying and then use your pad or whatever you, and then you go see the doctor. It doesn't stop you from praying at that point in time. Even sometimes scholars explain about being able to distinguish between the kind of blood that comes at one time or the other. But however, the point is that what the permissibility given to the woman who is in that kind of a condition that's functioning their menses, and the same ruling that comes to the issue of flatulence, right? So the person that fats constantly will also be engaged in this kind of a thing, and then you keep observing your salat. The only thing is just that you can't use one ablution for two salat. You can't say, okay, I did my Zohr, I want to retain my ablution for Asri. When it's time for Asri, I want to use the same ablution for Zohr, for Asri. You need to perform separate ablution for separate salat. So if you're fat and it gets that way, then you just continue with the salat.
So right now, we have run out of questions. We have answered all of the questions that have been asked. Alhamdulillah, thank you so much, sir. I'm just going to open it up to the attendees. Does anyone have any last minute questions?
I have one. I don't know if it's a question or it's a contribution, and then it's on this parting issue that is very relatable to me, and I'm sure to a lot of us. So what I've heard is our Imam said 3 to 4 times, I guess. What I heard is by the time you keep doing ablution and it happens, you do ablution, it happens. I think I heard from my Arabic school, I'm not so sure. I think either 6 or 7. Once it has gotten to like maybe you've done ablution like 6 or 7 times and it still happens, I hear that you can just continue with your salat. So I want to verify it because that's what has always been on my mind, just 6 or 7 times. And then if it keeps happening for reasons best known to, I don't know, either to us or I don't want to tell Allah. We should just continue with the salat.
Well, by the time you perform ablution 6 to 7 times, man, this salat is over, man. Salat is over. 6, 7 times ablution. Wow, that's inconveniencing. Allah has not placed a burden on us beyond what we can bear. 6, 7 times ablution. Do you know what it means? The salat is over. But that is an opinion anyway.
We tired already, so as I put that off the salat. Yes. Tenny, can I take this last 2 questions?
Yes, absolutely.
So this question says, can you use contraception to stop menses, that's the menstrual period, for purposes of Ramadan or Hajj? That means, can you stop like contraception or contraceptives to like put off your menses for Ramadan or for Hajj?
Well, the people do it, especially in order to avoid missing Arafah. And I've had some of our pilgrims who we've been to Hajj together with in the past. They actually take some medication from their medical doctors that they don't want to have their water view so that they can finish their Hajj. However, well, if it is not going to have any health implication, that is no problem. But we know that this is actually not what we have during the lifetime of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So it will be difficult for one to say, quite frankly, the clear-cut ruling on from the Hadith or the Sunnah. But my take on that is that if this thing does not have any implication on your health, either now or later, then you can use it. But if it will have, I think you have to think twice about it before you go ahead and do that. You know, if you look at the case of Aisha radiallahu anha, she was on Hajj and she had menses, and Rasulullah told her to do every other thing apart from this or that, and gave her some specific things to do. And then when the stuff was over, and then she just continued with her Hajj operation. All the things you can do, except some few areas, you can go for your Arafah, you can go for these and do your stuff. Just some tawaf you can't do your salat and other areas, but you can still do your azkar, make your dua. So reason why people don't want to have their menses while on Hajj, I think it's best known to them because of the fact that they felt if they have to that being that experience, for those number of days, they won't be able to go to Masjid Haram and do tawaf, and they're gonna miss a great deal of opportunity of making dua to Allah. These, amongst others, are part of their reasons. However, we should keep in mind that whatever we do, first thing Allah looks at is the intention.
Yeah.
Right? First thing Allah looks at is the intention. So if Allah brings it at that point in time, you weren't able to go to Haram for Tawaf, Allah knows. So just hold on. But if you take your medicine given by the doctor and it has no implication on you, so be it. It's no problem.
Thank you, sir. This one says, with respect to urinary inconsistence, can you also keep praying?
The same ruling applies to it. So keep in mind this Tahara, urinary incontinence, urine, and the case of flatulence, the same ruling applies to all of them. But just that as you are praying, you need to also keep in mind that you will see the doctor, the medical doctor. The difference with urinary stuff is that you need to get yourself some stuff that can protect the urine from getting splashed to your body, because it could be a bit toxic, right? So if that could be protected, your body could be protected. After the salat, you can go empty the stuff and just continue with other things to do. So it shouldn't really stop you from observing your salat.
Okay, I think this is the last one we have. If one has been advised to do only dry wudu because of skin condition, how long can one continue with dry wudu? As a consultant advised, at least 18 months to prevent the condition reoccurring. These conditions affect toes and fingers. Is that from
You can do dry ablution for as long as that condition persists or prevails. No time limit for dry ablution. As long as the reason for it continues, dry ablution continues. Because dry ablution takes the place of the normal ablution.
Over to you, Tenny.
Thank you so much, Latifa. So seeing that we have run out of questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the session, inshallah. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for allowing us to benefit from increased knowledge and to get clarity of things that we were unsure of. And thank you so much, Imam, for answering our questions, sharing your knowledge with us. May Allah make it all beneficial for us, inshallah. Are we allowed to say inshallah when we're making dua?
That's a good question. I've heard people say that you don't say inshallah when you make dua, and that is very, very wrong. Because inshallah, anyway, maybe let me just quickly clarify this. Inshallah is used in the Quran not on the basis of conditional statements. And if you check Tafsir ibn Kathir, Tafsir al-Tabari, and Tafsir what do you call it now? Muragi, Tafsir al-Muragi, and others, you discover that inshallah is based on context. And it's not a conditional statement. In is a conditional clause. It introduces a conditional clause, right? But it's not every time you say inshallah that you are saying if Allah wills. The hadith I read, somebody sent to my WhatsApp that, oh, Allah bless me, inshallah, that if you so will, that you don't say if you so will. But the inshallah there is not the inshallah that if you so will, but the inshallah is on the inshallah of ta'kid. And you can check Surah Al-Fatih, chapter 48 of the Quran. Allah mentioned the Quran, لَقَدْ صَدَقَ اللَّهُ رَسُولَهُ رُؤْيَا بِالْحَقِّ لَتَدْخُلُنَّ الْمَسْجِدَ الْحَرَامَ إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ آمِنِينَ. That word inshallah aminin is not if Allah wills. It's that by the grace of Allah, the believer shall enter the Masjid al-Haram in peace. So for you to say inshallah this will happen, it's not that you are saying if Allah will it will happen. No. But you are saying bi'idnillah, bi-ma'ana bi'idnillah wa awni. With the power of Allah, it will happen. So because Allah used the word inshallah in that surah, not with a conditional, not as a conditional clause, but as something that is positive, a positive expression of what Allah will do to the believers. And it's different from the expression of inshallah in Surah Al-Kahf. If you look at Surah Al-Kahf, Allah tells us, وَلَا تَكُلَّنَا لِشَيْءٍ إِنِّي فَاعِلٌ ذَلِكَ غَدًا إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Allah used inshallah there too, but this one is a text in the context of conditional statement. So the two of them are different. And my brothers, subhanallah, have mixed it up. I just hope that we have better time to talk about this, inshallah, some other time. But when you say inshallah in prayer is perfect. It's okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sorry, please,
yeah.
I have one more thing to say. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What I heard about inshallah and biiznillah is, so it's like, if you say, inshallah means if Allah wills, and biiznillah means by His grace or by Allah's grace. So it's like as if you're praying, oh Allah bless me if you will, instead of oh Allah bless me by your rahmah, by your blessings, or by your grace bless me. Like that's like sometimes when I'm trying to mix it up, or when I'm even trying to explain to people that, oh, instead of saying inshallah, use biiznillah. So this is like how I just say, I'm like, it's like you're saying, oh Allah grant me this if you will, instead of saying, oh Allah grant me this by your mercy. So I'm just trying to say that this is,
Well, I think you're getting it. We're getting it mixed
I'm
up.
still getting it mixed
Number
up.
one is that Allah did not use.
Oh wow.
Yes, you're getting it mixed up because Allah did not use the word bi'idhnillah in the Quran.
Wow.
But Allah used the word inshallah in the Quran, like I told you in Surah Al-Fatih, not in the context of if Allah wills, but in the context, if you check, in fact, Sheikh Al-Alama Ibn Kathir, he explained it clearly. The word, if you check the Surah Al-Fatih and check your Tafsir Ibn Kathir, you see the explanation under the verse, you see the explanation given clearly by the Sheikh in that context. And same thing, Sheikh Al-Muragi explained it. In fact, Sheikh Al-Muragi's tafsir explained it in a better detail, right? So the point here is that, you know, people just say, oh, once you say inshallah, you say if Allah wills. But that's not correct. That's not correct.
But I mean, at the end of the day, isn't everything by the will of Allah? So if you say if Allah wills, I
The will
mean,
of Allah.
it's if Allah wills. Like, you have no control over that. But yeah. Anyways, we have one last question. It's not a question, but someone would like to know if it's okay to get in touch with you. So if you can share your details, they have follow-up questions that they would like to ask you.
I told
personally.
Sister Latifa that I'm a servant of Allah. I'm always available 24/7. And let me quickly make this clear. Please, I need to mention this. Please, I'm not a scholar of the deen. And I'm saying it with all sense of humility. I'm not a scholar. I'm a student of knowledge. And I'm willing to learn from anybody, from everybody. And I'm always avid. I have this kind of avidity to learn from anybody that I see some chances of learning from. This is the way I am. If you call me to ask questions, please keep in mind that I am not a scholar. I'm not an alim. I'm only learning, and I hope that Allah will bless our knowledge. So you can share my contact with them, but the only thing is just that I'm a very busy person. If you call me, I don't pick your call, please send an SMS or chat me up on WhatsApp, and I'll try to reply you at the time that I find is very convenient. We can have scheduled time. We can schedule a time for if we have to have conversation, we can schedule it. But it's not all the time that I'm available because of my schedule at work and other stuff that I have to do. But nonetheless, despite my task schedule, it doesn't stop me. And inshallah, it will never stop me from working for the deen. Be in the light, it will never stop me. So please share my contact, share my phone number. Call me, I don't pick, don't mind. Send an SMS, I might call you back, or let's chat on WhatsApp. I'm always available. If it is for the sake of Islam, I'm available. If it's not for Islam, it's for dunya. I'm not a businessman, I'm not a rich man, just a servant of Allah. So you may not find me on the part of business or the part of others, but in part of the deen, then I will be available, inshallah.
That's a lot, Karen. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Somebody is raising their hand. I want to know if the person has something that they want. Okay, I think they've taken it down.
They've taken it down, yeah.
Yes, Jazakumullah, Karen. Thank you so much.
Just
sir.
a quick note, sorry, Latifa. The person who asked the question about reaching out to Imam, if you can reach out to Tahara Collective, because you asked your question anonymously, so we don't know who you are. So if you can just reach out to Tahara Collective, we'll share.
Kindly send an email to taharacollective@gmail.com. We will definitely respond to it. At taharacollective@gmail.com. Thank you very much.
All right, so if we can just wrap up with a quick dua from Imam, we would really appreciate that, sir.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا ظلما كثيرا وإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت وأنت تغفر الذنوب جميعا فاغفر لنا اللهم ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أعلنا وما أسرفنا وما أنت أعلم به منا أنت المقدم وأنت المؤخر لا إله إلا أنت ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا واجعلنا اللهم برورا وقرة أعين لوالدينا وآتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallah, parents. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to everyone in the audience. Assalamu alaikum. Have a wonderful week ahead, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Imam. Thank you, Tenny. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.